So now I'm going to introduce our facilitator for this evening. Jennifer is a GMU alumni and has lived and worked in many places around the world. Since she graduated in 2003, she's been practicing and studying yoga and meditation for the last 20 years and loves to help students find what feels good in their bodies to help reduce stress and soothe the nervous system. She currently resides in Austin, Texas, and works one-on-one with clients, both virtually and in person, to help them reduce stress, heal trauma, and find more well-being in their lives. Thank you, Jennifer, for being here.
Thank you, Ty. And hello, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to get to share in this event with you all. As Ty mentioned, I attended and graduated from GMU back in 2003. And I haven't been in the Northern Virginia area since then, but a lot of fun memories and some family back there that helped me come back and visit every now and again. Tonight, we're going to be participating together in a mindful yoga class. And so when I talk about yoga, you can have a lot of different ideas of what that means for you. You might imagine some, super stretchy, bendy people twisting themselves up into pretzels or making crazy shapes with their body. But what we are going to be doing tonight, this evening together, is going to be taking some time to stretch and breathe. And we're going to start this practice of deep listening. And so the practice of yoga is really about listening to your body, checking in with where you are, what you've brought to you on your mat that day or wherever you might be practicing, and starting to get curious about what your body and your mind might need in each moment, and then building up a toolkit of different things that you might invite in to help offer some balance. Some days we might be feeling a little lethargic or down and kind of slow. So maybe our yoga practice in those days will be more energetic and heat building to help us find that balance to kind of pick us up a bit. Other days when we feel really stressed out and we've got a lot going on in our mind or in our lives, we might want to invite in something that's more soothing and calming to the nervous system. So this practice is about checking in with where you are and then inviting in the tools that feel most supportive for you. And so as we go through this practice tonight, your body is going to be your greatest teacher. Nothing should ever hurt. And let everything that I offer to you this evening be an invitation to try it on and then point you to what it is your body would like to do. So sometimes the stretches might feel good and you want to stay there. Sometimes they won't feel good and you can do something else that feels good in that moment. So always listening to what feels best for you. We're going to get started in a seat. So if you're in a chair, you are welcome to stay there. You don't have to move yet. Eventually, we will move onto the ground. I'm going to move back to my seat back here. If you're in a chair, I would recommend you move to the edge of the chair so that the spine can be long and tall and you can sit upright a bit. If you'd like to sit on the ground, you're welcome to find your way onto a seat. My hips and my hamstrings are always tight, so I am sitting on a bolster. It's a little pillow, but if you have a yoga block or a blanket or something to support the hips, that might take some of the tension out of the hips. You could have the legs crossed if you're sitting on the ground, or you could even have the soles of the feet on the ground and the knees up towards the sky, but try and avoid slouching down. Pull the shoulder blades together, lift the collarbone up towards the sky so that the chest is broad and the shoulders can soften down and back. So taking a moment now to settle in and notice what posture feels most supportive for you. And as I mentioned earlier, we're not looking for a specific shape. We want to check in and see what feels best in my body this evening. So trying on different options and see what feels right for you. As you settle into your seat, we're going to start by letting our hands rest on our legs somewhere. You can see if it feels better for the palms to be facing down or facing up. You might go back and forth and see which one feels better for you this evening. There's no wrong way to do any of this. We're going to just check in and see what feels best each moment of class. So next we're gonna imagine there's a string on the top of the head and we're gonna lengthen it up towards the ceiling. So all the muscles in the abdomen and the rib cage are starting to contract and lift the rib cage and the spine up towards the sky. And we're gonna draw the right shoulder blade back towards the left hip and the left shoulder blade back towards the right hip. And now soften everything. So we're still keeping a little bit of length in the spine, but we want to find a seat of ease when we begin this evening. So taking a moment now to see if it feels better for your eyes to be softly open, gazing down at the floor in front of you, or maybe gently closed, starting to notice all the images and colors coming through the backs of the eyelids. As we settle in and begin our yoga practice, I mentioned earlier, this practice of yoga, it's a science. And so we're going to introduce different exercises throughout the practice, and we want to notice the effect on our body and our mind. And in order to notice an effect, we need to check in with our baseline. So in this moment, take a moment to check in with your body, noticing any sensation that's here. You can notice if you have a preference for it to be here or not be here. Maybe there's some restlessness or some tension. And maybe there's some spaciousness and some calm. All of it happening at the same time. We want to start this practice of allowing ourselves to be exactly as we are. After the week that you've had, after the month that you've had, how could it be any other way? Meeting yourself where you are in this moment, allowing everything to be as it is. And then seeing how, as we move through class, what you might do to help support yourself. What is it that'll help you feel balanced this evening? No one else can tell you that, only you. Noticing the support of the earth underneath the body rising up. Notice the parts of the body that are making contact with the surface below, whether it's a chair or the ground or something else. You might say to yourself silently or out loud, I am supported. And in this moment, while you're sitting in your posture, notice what kind of emotions and thoughts are here, constantly flowing through. What have you brought with you from your day? We're not trying to stop them. We're not trying to change them. We want to turn our attention and get curious about what they are. This witnessing part of ourselves, watching all of the movement of the thoughts, emotion, sensation. And through this practice, we're going to start practicing guiding our attention to where we'd like it to go. So we're not trying to get rid of any part of our experience. We'll let it all be here. And then this practice of guiding attention to the body. And in this effort of focusing attention, we're now going to guide it to the breath itself. So if it feels okay to you, we're going to take our hands to our lower belly, somewhere between the navel and the hip creases. You want the shoulders to soften down and back. Once you feel settled here, you have the option to close your eyes again or keep them softly open, whatever feels right for you. Attention on the breath helps us train the mind to focus. So as you inhale, shift your attention down to the belly. Feel the belly expand like a balloon. And as you exhale, feel the hands as they gently soften towards the belly, the gentle pressure you feel where the hands make contact with the belly. Inhale deep into the belly, deep into the floor of the torso where the torso makes contact with the surface below. And exhale, feel the hands softening onto the belly. Continuing in this way and see if you can breathe in a way that feels so good in the body. What is that for you after the day that you've had? How might you breathe in a way that feels really good? You're going to notice the mind's going to get busy. It's going to start noticing thoughts or emotions that are here. That's fine. Just notice thinking, and then bring your attention back to sensation in the belly and in the hands. This is a practice. It takes a lot of patience in the same way you might train a puppy or a toddler. So being very kind and gentle with yourself every time you guide your attention back home. As you follow the next exhale out, we're going to shift our hands up to our rib cage and check in with the shoulders here. Notice if it feels better for your hands to rest on the front of the ribs. You might make a little shape, L shape with your thumb and your pointer finger and have the thumb wrapping behind the rib cage and the pointer finger and the rest of the fingers on the front. Or maybe you cross your arms and let your palms rest on the opposite rib cage. Notice which one of these feels right in your body this evening. And we'll take an inhale here. As you inhale, feel the rib cage expanding outward into the hands, out to the sides. And as you exhale, feel the ribs soften towards the center and gently descend. Inhale, notice all of the muscles wrapping around each one of the ribs, how they gently engage and stretch and lift. And as you exhale, notice sensation in the hands as they soften onto the rib cage and the rib cage releases. A few more rounds of breath like this. Breathe in a way that feels so good for you. The mind will wander away, gently guiding it back to sensation in the rib cage and sensation in the hands. The sound of the breath. The temperature of the breath. The end of the next exhale, slowly following it out. And on your next inhale, we're going to bring the hands up to the chest. So let your fingers soften somewhere near the collarbone, and the palms are going to soften onto the chest itself. You want the shoulders to release any tension that might be there, wherever possible. Eyes can be softly open or gently closed. Shifting attention into the ceiling of the torso and breathing into the collarbone. So drawing the breath all the way up into the collarbone and the shoulder blades at the same time. And as you exhale, feel the hands softening into the chest. Inhaling into the shoulder blades and the collarbone and everywhere in between. And exhaling, hand softening. Several more rounds of breath like this, your own pace, your own time. You are in charge here. Only you know what feels good in your body. It's very hard for us to think and feel at the same time, so we use this body sensing to help our thought traffic slow down. One more inhale here. Ceiling of the torso. And as you exhale, let the hands now rest wherever they feel most supportive. So it might be on your legs, it might be somewhere on your chest, something we've done already, something else that you know feels good. Sometimes one hand on the heart, another hand on the belly feels good. So just checking in what feels right for you. Eyes can be softly open or gently closed. We're going to invite all three of those at the same time. So let your next inhale be into the belly, the ribs, the chest. And like a wave, it's going to flow out on the exhale, chest, ribs, belly. Inhale, lower torso, middle torso, upper torso. And like a wave, gently falling down back through the three chambers of the torso. Several more rounds of breath like this. Let it feel so good in your body. Notice where you feel sensation the most as you draw in the inhale. Let the inhale and the exhale be a pleasure as you breathe in and breathe out. And this privilege of being able to breathe in a way that feels really good in the body. You might again invite in that affirmation, I am supported. And as you breathe, notice the support of the earth rising up to hold you. And then let the breathing exercise go. Eyes can be softly open or gently closed. Take a moment now to check in. So this science experiment we're in this evening, notice the effects of that breathing exercise on the body, the mind, the heart. Maybe noticing what feels different. Noticing what feels the same. The curiosity about how you might support yourself next. We'll blink the eyes open and let your breath come back to a place that feels really good as it's flowing in and out of the body. If you're sitting on the ground and your legs are getting tender, you might switch the legs in the other direction. We're going to do a few postures for our neck and our shoulders. If you're sitting in a chair, you're welcome to stay where you are. Find your way to the ground if you'd like to try something different. So as you settle in here, we're going to let the chest be tall, lengthening through the spine. You might think about smiling a little bit inside the mouth. It helps soften the face, soften the muscles, let our nervous system know we're safe. It's okay to rest and calm down now after the busy day that we've had. And from here, we're going to take our hands out beside us and turn the palms up. Very slowly start to bring the palms and fingers towards each other. Turning the palms away from each other and start to bring them down. So moving at a pace that feels good in your body, letting the chest be long and tall, the collarbone, the roof of the mouth is lifting. Noticing sensation in the shoulders and the neck as you do this. We carry a lot of tension up there, so we want to be very gentle with ourselves as we move through. The next time the hands come up together, when you exhale, we're going to open up into 90 degrees with our elbows in a cactus arm. So spread the fingers wide, elbows at 90 degrees, lift the collarbone, lift the roof of the mouth, and the hips are releasing downward. Upper body moving upward and lower body moving downward. Shoulders softening down towards the hips as the roof of the mouth is lifting up towards the ceiling. On your next inhale, gently draw the elbows behind you towards each other, broadening across the chest. As you exhale, elbows and palms are going to come together and you're going to bring your chin towards your collarbone. Inhale, open up, elbows back behind you, lengthen, lift the collarbone. Exhale, elbows and palms together, chin softening towards the collarbone. Maybe matching breath and movement. A pace that feels good for you, slower or faster. And the next time you open up on your inhale, we're going to spread our arms out into a Y. Take a big stretch here. Say yes to life. And exhale, release the hands down. You might shake the shoulders out. We're going to do an exercise that helps to loosen up tension in the shoulders. So you're going to take one of your shoulders and imagine like you're pulling a rope. We're not going to clench with our hands, but you're going to bring the shoulder up towards the ear and back behind you. And then the opposite shoulder is going to come up towards the ear and back behind. So back and forth a few times, making these circles with our shoulders. If your hands are closed, let them be very gentle. You can keep the hands open and notice if there's anywhere along the way you'd like to linger for a little bit. Breathing maybe 3 or 4 seconds on the inhale and 3 or 4 seconds on the exhale. From here, we're going to bring our hands back to our legs and let your chin drop down towards the chest. Try and avoid the shoulders curling forward by drawing the shoulder blades back together and only let the chin soften down, breathing into the back of the neck. Breathing into the space where the skull makes contact with the top of the spine, behind the ears. 4 or 5 seconds on the inhale, 4 or 5 seconds on the exhale. On your next inhale, lifting the chest. Exhale, let the right ear soften down towards the right shoulder, lengthening through the left side of the neck. And we're going to take our left hand out, parallel with the ground, palm facing down. A great place to welcome in that gentle smile on the face, softening the hinges of the jaw, the space behind the eyes, breathing in a way that feels so good. So if you want, you can play around with that three-part breath we were doing earlier. Belly, ribs, chest, ribs, belly. Feeling sensation in the arm, in the shoulder, in the neck. You can keep the hand here, or maybe you start to let the left hand slowly descend towards the ground. And when you feel a point where you're feeling tight and tense, you might stay there for a couple breaths, breathing into these places. We're not trying to change any of it. This is our body's way of letting us know we've been through some challenges this week. It is okay that it's here. It's just sending us a message. We want to give ourselves attention and patience and compassion, breathing into the spots that are tight and tense from our week. The end of the next exhale, letting the hand come down, engage the core, lift the head back up straight, and we're gonna drop the chin, and let the left ear soften towards the left shoulder. So you decide if there's anything else you wanna weave in between there, letting your practice support you for the evening. Noticing how this side feels different. So we tend to lean towards a certain way when we sit at our workstation, when we drive, when we talk on the phone. Mobility in your neck will most likely be different on this side. Right arm's going to extend outward, palm facing down. Already noticing this shoulder, this side of the neck. Is there anything you might do to offer an adjustment here to let this feel better in your body? Softening the hinges of the jaw, the space behind the eyes. The option to stay here, and now start letting this hand descend down towards the ground. Just noticing where it would like to stop along the way, where you're feeling any tension, where you're feeling tight, and let your inhale come into that place of tightness. So focusing attention on the place of tightness or tension and breathing there. In the same way you'd offer care and support to someone that was having a hard time. We normally don't tell them to be different. We want to be kind and gentle and just say, hey, I'm listening, I'm here. Slowly letting the hand soften back down towards the leg. We're going to take the chin over the right shoulder and imagine there's a string at the top of the head, lifting the chin up and back. And we're going to make a big circle. So stay active in the back of the neck as you move through. The circle is going to come around the opposite shoulder and across the collarbone. So this is active here, long in the back of the neck. We're not dumping into our shoulders or our neck, welcoming in any pops or cracks or crinkles, stopping anywhere along the way that feels really good. Whenever this circle comes to an end, there's no rush. We'll bring our head back up parallel and turn it over the left shoulder. So you catch up whenever it feels good for you, staying anywhere along the way that feels right for your body. As I mentioned before, everything I offer is an invitation to check in and see what is it your body wants this evening. Slow and steady with the breath. Focusing on sensation in the neck, the shoulders, and letting the breath feel like a wave, smooth, steady, flowing through the body. From here, we're going to bring our head back up to center. When you've finished your 4 rounds on the outside, arms come out parallel with the ground, and they'll start off with the palms facing down, micro bend in the elbows, draw the shoulders down and back. And we're going to flex through the wrists, pressing through the palms of the hands and drawing the fingers back towards the elbows. Noticing any sensation we feel in the hands, in the forearms. Spread the fingers wide, soften the shoulders down and back. Soften the hips. The core is slightly engaged to lift the spine and the rib cage up towards the ceiling. The shoulders soften down and back. Taking a moment here, eyes can be softly open or gently closed, noticing sensation in the upper part of the body. Noticing the breath, how it might change here in this posture. Everything is welcome. You decide when you release. There's nothing to prove here. Listening to the body along the way. At the end of the exhale, we're going to let the hands release back down to the legs. Take a moment here, eyes can be softly open or gently closed. This moment to check in and notice the effects of our practice on our body. We've done a lot of stretching in the upper body, so you might notice how it feels compared to the lower body, or maybe compared to when you started. The effects of the practice on the body, maybe the mind and the heart, what emotions are here, thoughts, everything is welcome. Just this curiosity about what's changed, what's the same, what's here now. We'll take a deep inhale here, blink the eyes open. Open mouth, exhale like you're fogging a mirror. 2 more rounds like that. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale. 1 more, inhale. Exhale. From here, we're gonna slowly find our way onto our hands and knees. So if you've been sitting for a while with your legs crossed, your hands might come and help the legs unwind a little bit if they're feeling tender. This is a great place to welcome in a towel or a blanket underneath the knees if the knees are feeling tender. You're going to find your way into a tabletop posture. So the hips are going to stack over the knees and the shoulders are going to stack over the wrists. You want to gently grab the mat or the floor with your fingertips to take some of the pressure out of the wrists and a slight micro bend in the elbows. As you inhale, bring the front of the hips away from the rib cage and stay long in the back of the neck, dropping the belly down into cow. As you exhale, chin to your collarbone, draw the shoulder blades apart, press into the hands, and bring the front of the hips towards the chin. Pressing into the tops of the feet, maybe 70%. We want to underdoing here. Very slowly, 1 vertebra at a time, or we're going to reverse that back into cow. Drawing the shoulders back towards the hips. Exhale, gently press the earth away with the hands and the feet. Draw the navel back towards the spine. I'm going to turn this over to you now. So moving back and forth, moving in a way that feels good, maybe matching breath and movement. And you might check in if the body wants some other movement here. So you can make circles with the shoulders and the hips and the spine and the neck. Just notice what feels good in the body, giving yourself an opportunity to be with the parts of the body that have had a hard time this week. Not trying to change them or tell them they shouldn't be this way. Just time to be friendly and sit with the parts of you that need some attention. Coming back to center, we're going to step our left foot back behind us. Toes stay on the ground and press through the heel of the foot. So keep a micro bend in the knee, especially if you're hypermobile. We don't want to flex through that knee too much. Breathing into the hamstrings, breathing into the heel. The heels gently pressing behind you. Draw the navel back towards the spine. Slight engagement in the core. Slow and steady. You have the option to keep the foot here, or you might lift it up parallel to the ground and see how that feels. None of this is better than. It depends on if your body's looking for more heat in your practice this evening or if it would like more calming and cooling. Slow and steady with the breath. And you can stay here. If you'd like to play with balance a little bit, you might bring your right hand forward. So maybe it just starts a couple inches off the ground. Maybe it comes parallel with the shoulder, thumb facing up, pinky finger facing down. And your gaze is down at the thumb of your left hand so that the back of the neck is long, top of the head reaching forward. This is a big balance pose, so check in if they're shaking and wobbling, that's great. You're right where you're supposed to be. Lengthening the heel back behind you, gently pressing into the limbs on the ground to lengthen through the neck, through the sides of the body. At the end of the next exhale, let all the limbs come back down to the ground. And you might welcome in a cat-cow or some movement in the shoulders and the hips that feel really good. Maybe roll your wrists around if they're feeling a little tender. Coming back to center when it feels right for you, we're gonna go to the other side. So stepping the right foot, reaching through the heel, breathing into the back of the leg. So micro bend in the knee. Drawing the navel back towards the spine, engage the core, maybe 60%. We want some slight engagement, but we're not trying to strain or put a lot of pressure there. And this might feel really good and maybe where you'd like to stay this evening. It's absolutely welcome. If you'd like to build a little more heat and play around with balance, you might lift the foot up. It's not better than, it's just a different option, a different variation. Each of our bodies needs something different this evening, so always listening to the wisdom of the body. Pressing through the heel either way, engaging the core, softening the hinges of the jaw, the space behind the eyes. You're welcome to stay here if you'd like to play with balance a little bit more. The hand's going to extend forward, maybe parallel with the ground, thumb facing up, finger facing down. Your gaze is down at the thumb of the hand on the ground. Taking the roof of the mouth and reaching it forward to lengthen through the neck. The shoulders are drawing back towards the hips. Smiling, coming back to the breath. 4 or 5 seconds on the inhale. 4 or 5 seconds on the exhale. At the end of the next exhale, let the limbs come back down to the ground. And bringing in some movement into the body that feels good. Cat, cow, whatever feels right for you. We're going to sit back into child's pose. Toes are going to come together. And you can move the hips back towards the heels and see if it feels better for the knees to be together or apart. The torso is going to rest down. So you can come down, and if that doesn't feel quite right, maybe bring the knees closer together, further apart. Just play around a bit. If it's feeling really tender on the tops of the feet and the ankles, let the hips be up higher so there's not as much pressure down there. It's not necessary for the head to rest on the ground, but we want to release all the tension in the neck so the head hangs down towards the ground if it's not making contact. Bring the elbows back enough so that the forearms release onto the ground and tension in the shoulder has an opportunity to release and soften. You might nod your head left and right. Coming back to this affirmation, I am supported. And noticing the support of the earth rising up to hold you. After the day that you've had, what parts of the body are allowing themselves to be supported? Nothing to do, just by being. Parts of the body feeling heavy, receiving the support from the earth. Breathing deep into the floor of the torso, that lower chamber here, connected to the earth, supported. Let the breath feel so good in the body. Slow and steady. Reaching the arms forward again, enough so that the forearms come up off the ground. Spread the fingers wide. We're going to find our way back into our tabletop. And you have the option here to stay here and step one foot back and then the other, breathing into the hamstrings. Or if you'd like to try down dog, you're going to tuck your toes, draw the navel back towards the spine, spread the fingers wide, and lift the hips up and back, keeping the knees bent here. Ears are going to move in the direction of your biceps. They may not go right between the biceps, and that's okay. You want to keep the knees bent and notice sensation in the lower back and the hamstrings. Feet are hip width distance apart, or maybe as wide as the mat. That might feel a little better. Maybe walk the feet a little closer to the hands and notice how that changes sensation. From here, you may play around with straightening one leg, just check in how that feels, and then bending it and straighten the other one. And I'll turn it over to you, starting to explore how you might find a little more support in this posture. It might be bringing the knees down. It might be doing something else. Just a curiosity about how your breath can support you here. Breathing deep into the lower chamber of the torso, into the rib cage, into the upper chamber of the torso. How can you support yourself as you're also supported by the earth? 4 or 5 seconds on the inhale. 4 or 5 seconds on the exhale. 2 more rounds of breath here. Let them feel so good in the body. Slow and steady with the breath. Whenever you're ready to release, core is engaged still. We're going to slowly bend the knees, let them come back down to the ground. Welcome in a few more cat-cows or anything that feels good in the back of the neck, the shoulders, the hips. When it feels right, sitting back towards your feet and letting the hips go to the right, the legs are going to come to the left and sweep them around in front of you. Soles of the feet on the ground. Take the feet as wide as the mat and turn your palms outward and then fingers away from the hips as they come behind you on the floor. Try to avoid dumping into the shoulders here by lifting the collarbone, pressing into the heels of the palms, lengthening the ceiling of the mouth, the roof of the mouth up towards the sky. Engage the core slightly. We're going to start to let the knees tick-tock left and right. Something that feels good on the lower back and the hips. Just check in here and notice what feels good for you. If you'd like to play around with balance, you might sit on your sits bones, hands in front of you, and from here, let the knees go left and right. You may travel up your mat if you try to go for that option. Just check in what feels right in the body for you. Slowly, we're going to let the knees come over to the left, and they're going to make a 90-degree angle, or maybe a little less. Notice what feels good on your ankles, on your knees. You have the option here to use your blanket or your towel under any part of your hip or your knee that feels a little tender on the ground. Slowly, we're going to walk the hands over the left knee. If the left knee's in the front, if it's your right leg, that's okay too. We're going to do both sides. Your left hand's going to come behind you, and your right hand's going to sweep across, breathing into the right side of the body here. We're not forcing anything or straining. You might invite in this idea of underdoing. Let this be maybe the only time in your day where underdoing is celebrated. Trying to find pleasure in these postures wherever possible, letting the breath feel really good in the body. Coming back to center, we're going to slowly bring our hands down on the ground in front of us and begin to walk the hands forward. Hinging from the hips, the chest is reaching forward. And already noticing how the hip's doing. It might feel better to bring the chest even further back behind the thigh, or maybe bring it over the shin more. Just checking in what feels okay for you, and stopping and breathing wherever you're feeling a lot of tension. Bringing the breath into that place of tension. As tension releases, it might feel okay to come down to the elbows, or maybe let the arms come out in front of you. That's not better than. It's just another variation available. Different sensation in the body depending on how our body is feeling every day. So trying on all these different variations and see what feels supportive for you. Wherever you are, let your head hang down towards your collarbone. Breathing into the back of the neck, the place where the skull makes contact with the top of the spine, behind the ears. Breathing deep into the floor of the torso, where the torso makes contact with the ground. Slow and steady. Breathing in a way that feels so good in the body. We carry a lot of stress and tension in our hips. So when we stretch our hips, it can often bring up some emotions and some thoughts from the day that might be difficult. So allowing those to be here, this is a part of you, it's a part of your experience. Welcoming your experience as it is. Knowing that you are more than your thoughts, you are more than your emotions. And no matter what comes your way, you are supported. As you follow the next exhale out, finding your way onto your hands and slowly walking the hands back towards the hips again. Lengthen through the chest, maybe a gentle smile on the face. Hands can come behind you, fingers pointing away from the body. And you can bring your feet up again, maybe a little tick-tock like we did before, long through the chest, slow and steady. We're gonna let the knees drop down to the right this time, starting to shift our weight onto our right hip, welcoming in that blanket underneath a knee or a hip or anywhere it feels supportive. So feet could be in 90-degree angles or a little bit closer, whatever feels best for your ankles and your knees. Our right hand's gonna come behind the thigh. And we're gonna take a big reach with our left hand this time. Letting the head soften down or maybe roll around out to the side. You can stay lifted. Breathing into the left side of the body, in between the ribs on the left side of the body. Behind the shoulder blade, relaxing the neck and the shoulders wherever possible. 4 or 5 seconds on the inhale. 4 or 5 seconds on the exhale. As you follow this next exhale out, we'll release that left hand. Both hands are going to come onto the ground, and we get to explore mobility in this side of the hip. So the chest reaching forward, and we're hinging from the hips rather than curling from our upper back. We want the upper back to stay long and tall at first. And you might kind of walk the hands to the left a little bit and walk them to the right. And just notice on this hip, where does it feel best for you to settle in? Noticing what direction the hip and the torso wants to go into. And seeing where the arms would like to settle here. There's no better than. Mobility on this side of the hip is going to be different. The way we sit in a chair or drive. The dominant leg we use. All of these things are going to impact the mobility on this hip, different from the other one. So supporting yourself here. Letting the head eventually release down, chin softening towards the collarbone, breathing into the back of the head, the back of the neck. And where the head meets the spine, now let the breath flow all the way down the spine into the floor of the torso, where the hips make contact with the ground. Next time you exhale, let the breath come out, up through the top of the head. Inhale through the top of the head, all the way down the spine, down into the hips. Exhale, up through the spine, out the top of the head. A few more breaths like this. You decide when and how the breath moves, in what direction, whatever feels good for you. Allowing all the emotions and thoughts and images to be here along with the sensation. Everything is welcome. You are more than all of these things and experiences. You are supported. As you follow the next exhale out, slowly finding your way up to your hands, walking the hands back. From here, one more time, knees can tick-tock left and right. We'll find our way onto our backs. You might have your hands behind your thighs, slowly lowering down, soles of the feet on the ground, knees up towards the sky. Take the feet wide, let the knees tick-tock left and right. The next time the knees drop to the left, let them stay there and reach along the ground with your right arm, lengthening through the right side body, breathing into the front of your hip, the right rib cage, softening the hinges of the jaw. At the end of the next exhale, the very center of your core is going to draw the knees up and over to the other side, and the left arm is going to lengthen along the ground, breathing into the left side body, into the rib cage, maybe a gentle smile on the lips. At the end of the next exhale, slowly releasing back to center. And we're going to find our way into our final posture. So if there's some other movement you'd like before you settle in, you're welcome to take that now. If it feels okay, we're going to have the feet wide. Heels are going to be in towards the glutes, and the knees are going to knock together. So you can check in with that, see how it feels. If it doesn't feel okay in the body, you could straighten the legs or put them in a different shape. We're going to have one hand somewhere, both hands are going to rest on the torso. So one hand could maybe be up towards the heart, the other one on the lower. Maybe they're both on the lower or on the ribs. Just notice what feels right for you based on what we did earlier. As you settle in here, notice if it feels better for the eyes to be softly open or gently closed. Noticing the support of the earth underneath the body, rising up to hold you. Attention wandering through the body. What parts of the body are allowing themselves to be supported? Heavy, releasing. Shifting from this doing and resting back into being. Being and receiving. Receiving the support of the earth. Receiving the breath. As you inhale, this gentle inhale into the belly, the ribs, the chest. And like a wave, it curls at the top and the breath slowly cascades down, chest, ribs, belly. Inhale into the lower chamber, middle, upper. Exhale, cascading down, upper, middle, lower. Continuing on in your own breathing rhythm, your own speed. This act of being and noticing if you let go of any effort, the body is breathing itself. There's nothing you have to do here. You can just watch as the air gently comes into the torso and slowly releases. Breathing in a way that feels good. Your body knows what to do. Receiving the gentle breath. Receiving the support of the earth. A reminder, I am supported. As we close our practice, noticing the effects of your practice on your body, your mind, your heart. What feels different than when you started? What feels the same? In this moment, what do you now know is true? slowly start inviting in a deeper, more conscious breath, something that feels so good in the body. Listening to the wisdom of the body, decide when it feels like it's time to bring gentle movement at the ends of the limbs. You might gently rock the head left and right if that feels okay, or maybe blink the eyes open and close. A curiosity about what other movement would feel really good as you start to reawaken. Maybe a long stretch or knees in towards the chest. Listening to the body, how you would like to move. Maybe you want to rest in stillness longer. You are welcome to lay here as long as you'd like. Whenever it feels right for you, you can continue resting here. If you'd like to start moving on with the rest of your evening, rolling over onto your favorite side, knees curled up towards your chest. You could bring your blanket, or your lower arm can offer a pillow underneath the head. Eyes can be softly open or gently closed. One last moment of stillness before moving on with the rest of your evening. A moment to thank yourself for showing up on your mat, offering yourself this gift of deep listening, of attention and awareness, self-care. When the body's ready to rise, let your top hand slowly support you up to a comfortable seat. You're welcome to sit in your chair again if it's nearby, or if you have a blanket or a pillow or a block or something you'd like to sit on. We'll find our way into a seat. Letting the spine be long and tall. We'll take a big stretch up towards the sky. Let it feel so good in the body. Hands and fingers soften together and gently come down to the heart, either in a gesture of gratitude or maybe one hand over the other. Notice what feels right for you. Eyes can be softly open, down at the ground, or gently closed. Attention on the hands at the heart, and attention on the energetic heart. A moment to say to yourself, I love you. I'm listening. A moment to thank each other, everyone who came here this evening, for what you brought to this practice. And a moment to thank your body for how absolutely amazing it is. Everything it does for you each and every day. We'll close with one last satisfying breath. Big inhale, whatever you want this to be. Open mouth, exhale, let it feel so good. Thank you all for sharing your practice with me this evening. I'm grateful for this opportunity and this time. Let me know if you have any questions, and Ty has some closing reminders for everybody who came. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen, for sharing your mindfulness and well-being yoga with us this evening. It was very enlightening for myself. So thank you very much. We have some comments coming on in here. Also, Jennifer has a few available openings for new clients right now. We put her, you can go to jenniferjanelle.com to learn more, and write to Jennifer directly at support@jenniferjanelle.com with any questions. And that was also put in the chat if you would like to copy that and contact her for any reason. And I would like to thank you all, every single attendee, for sharing your part of your evening with us, and I hope you enjoyed it. There is still time till midnight tonight to register for one more event, which is on Saturday, a mindfulness and well-being event, and it's on Saturday at 10 a.m. So the other thing that we would like to show you all is all attendees tonight for the event will be entered into a drawing for a homecoming spirit box. This is what it looks like, and it has some pennants, a nice koozie, a cup that changes colors, some beads, palms, and other little tattoo knickknacks. So we appreciate it, And definitely hope to see you guys on Saturday or another event that's this week, coming up over the next couple of days. If there's any questions, we can answer them in the chat also. But you guys have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Jen.